Hello lovely people and welcome to the Almita Made channel. My name is Alma and I'm here to chat about all things making, mainly sewing. Today's episode, it's all about one particular pattern, but before we get into that, all the trial and tribulations surrounding that particular make, I'm going to tell you what I'm wearing because I love it. It's a little new combination that I'm trying now that the weather is sort of turning a little bit autumnal. This is the Monet Tank by Wool and the Gang, which I finished knitting in July. It's a little cropped vest. I absolutely love it. It's purple with little speckles. It's a tweed, a chunky tweed, and I absolutely love it. I finished it in July and obviously never wore it. I just put it on for pictures, and I think I mentioned it in a vlog, which I'll link to, of course. But I hadn't really had a chance to wear it because the summer has been pretty warm here in the UK. But as soon as it started turning a little bit grey, wet, and colder, I am someone who gets really affected by the weather. I'm Italian, so I'm sorry. I have lived in the UK for almost 20 years, but I still get really affected when the weather turns. It just gets me down. But this year, I had a secret weapon because the weather turned and I was like, oh, no, not this. And then I thought, wait a second, I have something that I haven't been able to wear because it was too hot. Let me get it out and let me wear it. And honestly, I have worn it almost every day since the weather turned. Also because it's not super warm. It has some wool, but it's only the body, not the sleeves. So it's not like wearing a full-on jumper. And I have worn it with so many different things. And just in the house, when maybe outside it's still fairly warm, but then in the house in the evening it's getting a little bit chillier. And I've been putting it on and I'm just feeling so smug because I feel like I haven't worked for it. It sounds silly, but you know, if you buy something, say you buy a fabric and then you don't use it for like 2 years, when you get to sew it, you feel like that make was free because the money that you spent was so long ago that you feel like you almost got something for free. This is how I feel about this vest. I feel like the time that I invested in it is so long ago. It's not that long ago, but you know, it's quite long ago enough that I don't remember working on it. And what I can now enjoy is a vest that magically appeared in my wardrobe. It's made a big difference in my mood, so I'm very happy. And today I'm wearing it with a sewn make, which is a Bonnie blouse patterned by Sew Over It, which is where I work, so I am always biased, but this pattern is honestly such a great little pattern. It is a blouse and a dress. I've only made it as a blouse. I am hoping to make another one soon, actually. I do have a fabric that's earmarked for it, but I love wearing it. It's a cropped little blouse. So I've got it here with some high-waisted bob pants, stylark bob pants, but it's not fully designed to go with a vest like this because I think this vest is quite high, but I've forced it to work. Basically, I've unbuttoned the top button and pulled this down a bit so that I can have that, because I'm sorry, but that is heaven for me. The chunky neckline of the vest and the cute little vintage looking collar of the blouse on top. It's making me extremely happy. So there we go. I look forward to wearing this little vest with many, many more me mades this autumn and feeling happy about it, about the weather turning. So that is what I'm wearing. But what we're here to talk about is something quite different. So this was my first time using a pattern by Vikisews, which is a hugely, hugely popular brand of sewing patterns. And I understand why, because they have some very good designs. So often when there's a new trend or something that's really in the fashion world or the high street world or the sewing world, usually you will find a corresponding pattern by Vikisews. They are very good at recreating some very cool, very sexy, I would say very often, looks very quickly. And so I've always had an eye out. I'm not one to hugely sew the trends. I more get like my own trends in my head. Like I get obsessed with a certain thing and then that's what I follow for that season or whatever. but I'm not really a trends person. However, every now and then there's of course things that I love and I want to recreate. And I got it into my head for some reason this year that for my birthday, which when you watch this vlog, my birthday is the following day. So yay! I got it in my head that for my birthday, I wanted to make myself a dress for sure, and something that had a particular detail. And that detail is sort of I guess it's the elasticated nature of the V-neck line. So I'd seen some dresses around, I'm gonna say, that had this sort of look. And I loved mainly the neckline, but I looked and looked and I couldn't quite find. And you might now probably mention various patterns that fit the bill in the comments, and please do if you can, because I'd love to know other options. I couldn't quite find that without cutouts. Cutouts aren't my favorite thing. I don't mind them, but it's not like something that I get particularly excited about wearing. And so after searching and searching, I did find this dress, which is the Oona dress by Vikisews. And I really liked the front of this dress and I liked the skirt. And then it has this open back, which I really didn't like. So I thought about it for ages and I thought, you know what, I can probably hack the back somehow. Let me get the pattern because I really, really, really like how the front looks. And the sample I think is gorgeous in red. That's what attracted me to it. I set about buying the pattern. That was not easy. Already a hurdle. So as I said, I work at Sew Over It. I'm very used to working with Sew Over It patterns, obviously, because they're very much there and accessible for me. So I'm used to certain things with patterns and with other pattern companies as well that I use a lot, like Friday Pattern Company, for example. I use them a lot, and there are a few others that I've used here and there. And usually what I'm used to is buying a size range, and you buy the PDF and you get all the sizes in the size range. But with Vikisews, turns out you can't do that. Or maybe some patterns you can do that. With this one in particular, and I'm talking about on the website, on the Vikisews website, I could not buy a range of sizes. I had to choose a size. Not only that, I had to choose a height, which I have never in my life seen. Now, this might be something that is hugely useful for certain people. I'm sure it could be, but I basically shorten pretty much every single pattern that I sew, and that's Sew Over It and others. I always have to shorten them. It is something that I would say, as alterations go, fitting alterations go, shortening or lengthening something is probably the easiest thing that you can do. So I now factor it in. What I do, my way of doing it is holding up the pattern piece up to myself, vaguely working out where the seam is going to go, and then going, oh yeah, that's too long, let me chop off. So with Sew Over It patterns, for example, I'm 5'5", they're designed for 5'6". What I end up doing with pretty much all of them is shortening them by 5 centimeters. Every now and then there's one that I shorten more or less, and that's more to do with style, I think. So maybe I like a shorter skirt or I like a longer skirt. So that's how it varies. But as a rule for me, I always take off 5 centimeters. So I feel like maybe because I'm used to it, I don't find that having different heights is that useful. I think having different cups could be very, very useful, for example, if you're going to do different things within the pattern, you know. But please correct me if I'm wrong, and if you love the fact that you can get Vikisews patterns for different heights. Now, having said that, I bought the height for my height range. So let me get my notes because there's a lot of things that I'm going to have to refer to. So I bought the height range that goes from, and this is in centimeters, whereas in the UK a lot of things regarding patterns is in inches, so this will all get very confusing, but you know, the height range I bought for the Oona dress by Vikisews was between 162 and 168 centimeters in height. I am 165, so sort of in the middle. So I thought, okay, I've bought it for my kind of size range. It's probably going to be one that I don't have to alter that much. Uh, Wrong. I did my little test holding up the skirt up to myself, and I was like, this is enormous. I'm going to trip over this. Like, even with sew-over patterns that I always shorten, it's never so long that it's ridiculous that I'm gonna actually like step on top of my skirt and fall on my face. This was gonna be that. So I ended up shortening the skirt by 14 centimeters, which is almost 3 times what I usually do for sew-over patterns. So that blew my mind already. I wasn't happy. 14 centimeters is a big, big bit to chop off. But anyway, I did it. That was okay. I was just miffed. I wouldn't have even thought about it had it just been a pattern that's designed for a certain height, and you just go like, yeah, I'll probably have to shorten it or lengthen it depending on your situation. But it annoyed me a lot because I'd had to choose and only purchase one height. So I was annoyed. Moving on to choosing the actual size for the pattern. So I find that when you sew something from a new to you sewing pattern company, it's all a bit of trial and error. There's definitely more thought that I put into fitting a pattern from someone I don't know compared to sew over it, for example, that I sew all the time. I know exactly what adjustments I need to make. I know exactly what size to start from or what side to grade to. So if it's a very fitted skirt, for example, I usually cut a size 10 for the bodice, and then I grade to a size 12 for the hips, for the skirt, for the trousers, whatever. If it's something very loose, I know I can probably get away with just a size 10 straight. So it's all those things that you learn, I think, by using patterns from the same place over and over again, which is obviously very useful. But that's not something that stops me from sewing other companies' patterns, of course. And it just means that when I first have a go, I have to really take a look at the charts, take a look at the finished measurements, take a look at maybe examples of the garment to see the sort of look, the ease, how it looks on people in different sizes and things like that. There's just more thought that goes into it. And I was completely ready to do that for this one. However, you have to choose one single size. So before I could do all of that research, I had to kind of choose already what kind of size. And yes, you might think, okay, Alma, you could have just waited, done the research and then gone back and bought it. But I really wanted to make this dress for my birthday celebrations, which is why I was on a little bit of a time crunch. So I started looking at the measurements, and the measurements sort of put me in between a 38 and a 40, size 40, which already I was annoyed because it was like, oh, I'm in between two, but I can only buy one. This is so frustrating. If I could just buy the size range, then I can do all my calculations. Something I do very often is I measure the actual pattern piece in one size and in the next one to help me work out how tight or how loose it's actually going to be. I couldn't do that, which really annoyed me. And then I basically saw that I was in between a 40 and a 38. But I thought most of the shaping, there's no bust darts or anything like that. Most of the shaping is done through elastic channels. So I thought, I'm going to go for the smaller size because I can probably get away with that because everything is kind of regulated by the elastic. That was my thinking. And then, for example, my hips measurement definitely put me in the size 40, but the skirt isn't particularly tight. And again, it's regulated by elastic. So I just thought, I'm going to go for the smaller one, which if it was a much more fitted garment, I would have probably gone for the bigger one and then sort of taken things in. But because of the elasticity of it, not in the fabric, but in the construction with the elastic, I thought I'm going to go for the smaller one. But for example, if I was looking at a dress that was super fitted, that alone would stop me from buying the pattern because I would want to have the possibility to grade between sizes if it was something super fitted. And they do a lot of super fitted things that I really like the look of, but I'm going to steer clear of. So with this one, in the end, I decided, I just kept thinking of that neckline and how much I liked it. So I just decided to go for the smaller size 38. In my height, turns out not. And I bit the bullet, bought the pattern, got it printed. I use Patternsy, by the way. I don't know where everyone gets the patterns printed, their PDFs printed, but I love Patternsy. They're very quick usually. It is tissue paper, so maybe if it's a pattern that I think I'm going to make over and over again, I will go, well, sometimes I get it printed at work, it's over it. But if not, I will order it maybe from the fold line. So anyone that does proper paper, if it's something that I think I'll use over and over again. This is like a fun dress that I thought I'll probably make once. I would have liked to maybe make it again, but we'll get to that again later on. So I got the pattern, I cut it all out, and then I'm so pleased about my fabric choice. So I was thinking about two possible fabrics. I have a Liberty's cotton lawn that I have been really wanting to use, and I thought I would love to make my birthday dress in that fabric. But then, because of already finding so many hurdles in the buying of this pattern, I thought I cannot risk Liberty fabric. That was a gift, like a gift card from a friend. And that's how I bought the fabric. So I just thought it would make me so sad if everything goes wrong. So let me use something that I'm less precious about. If I love the dress, then maybe I make it also in the Liberty fabric. Spoiler alert, that ain't happening. But the royal we decided that it had to be cotton. I think they do recommend cotton amongst other things, but I just saw it in the image that I got of it. I thought I really think I would like a nice cotton for this. And I looked through my stash on Stash Hub, which I really like to keep track of everything that I've got in terms of patterns and fabrics. I love that you can put whether it's pre-washed or not, for example, because I always forget. I very often will wash a fabric as soon as I get it, but not always. And it's annoying when it's a fabric you bought ages ago and you can't remember whether you washed it or not. But in the Stash Hub app, you can tick a box to say that it's pre-washed. So I love that. Really, really love that app. And I will link below it's an affiliate link if you want to use it to get a free month of the premium Stash Hub app. And I will get a few little pennies of commission. So win-win all round. If you like an organizational app, I would recommend. So this fabric, which has been hanging next to me, it's quite striking. This is a cotton, I'm going to say it's a cotton poplin, although a little bit softer than a cotton poplin. It's definitely not a lawn, but it's definitely not like a quilting cotton. It's something in between. I think it's a light poplin, I would call it. This I bought over a year ago when I went to Costa Rica to see my family. So most of my family lives in Costa Rica in Latin America, and they have some great fabric shops. And this I bought at the time, I think it was a pre-cut length, I want to say. It's quite narrow, but the length was over 3 meters. I can tell you how much it was. Let me check on the app. Oh, it was 3.8 meters. That's huge. That makes sense to me now. So it's only 110 wide, because the fabric shop where I bought it, I feel like it was mostly quilting cottons and beautiful, beautiful ones, but mostly for quilting, which tend to be the pattern ones, at least, you know, the more novelty ones like this tend to be quite narrow. Then you get wider ones for like the borders and things. But yeah, they're usually quite narrow. But the piece was 3.8 meters, so very, very long, which makes up for the lack of width usually. And I remember it being very affordable and very striking. And it has sugar skulls all over. So this is like Mexican folklore, which I love. Really, really love it. It's so striking. I love the roses on it as well. I love the colors of the sugar skulls. I love that there's a lot of purple, but there's also a lot of red, a lot of green. I usually stay away from red because of my love of purple. I don't always love how they go together, but I think they go really well together in this. And so I had this fabric, I had a lot of it, clearly, 3.8 meters. And I thought, let me make a very dramatic dress in this fabric, which is exactly what I did. So I cut out all my pieces. No, that's not true. I first looked at the pattern to figure out if I could eliminate the open back. And I thought about it and I thought about it. And in the end, I decided, look, I've got enough of this fabric that even if everything goes wrong, maybe I can still cut a top from it. You know, I could still salvage some of it. I love it, but I'm not super precious. It's not my Liberty fabric. So I decided that to eliminate the back opening, sounds extremely wrong, that to eliminate the back cutout, I would cut 2 of the front skirt instead of a front skirt and a back skirt. So the front skirt piece comes in at the top. This is why I didn't wear the dress, because I thought I could show you it. So the pattern piece for the front skirt comes up, maybe I'll put a line drawing up as well, but it basically comes from the side seam, it goes up into the sort of the sternum. It goes up and then down again. And the back skirt originally goes just straight, and then you have elastic in the back that goes straight like that. And I just really didn't like that wholly open back. I thought, I don't mind a bit of cutout, so let me see if I can have just a cutout on the side, and then it's a closed back in the center back. And that's what I ended up doing, which miraculously worked. So it was a bit of like pulling and pushing things to fit rather than a smooth sailing experience, but the experience was not smooth sailing from the word go, so it's okay. We had to work for this dress. So I cut the front and back skirt in the same shape, and what I thought I would do, and it did end up working, was that I would put elastic in the back. Usually it's all elastic in the back bodice. What I did is stop the elastic a little bit. I think maybe I've got 10, maybe a bit more, maybe 15 centimeters of center back without elastic in the bodice, and then started the elastic again. And then that little bit that I didn't elasticate got joined with the peak of the skirt piece, and then I made a little channel. Let me just turn this inside out. Okay, so we have elastic in the side back bodice and elastic in the side back bodice. Then in the middle, I put no elastic in the bodice. I joined the bodice with the skirt, made a little channel, and then there is elastic in there, but it's the elastic of the skirt, which continues to the side, to the side, to the side, and all the way to the center front. There. So I made that work, and I was quite proud of myself. Now, while we're inside, I will also show you that I added inseam pockets, which I'm glad I did, although, of course, the skirt is mostly elasticated and slightly disattached and attached to the bodice. So when I do put something in the pockets, the skirt gets dragged down a little bit. So it's for emergency carrying of your phone only. But I could have, could have a lipstick in there. That's okay. And I could put my hands in it, which I like to have as an option. So still glad I put them in, but they're not the most useful pockets ever. And then what I will get into is how much I reduced the length of elastic suggested by the pattern. So just to remind you that I bought the size down from the one that I should have probably bought. Thank God I did that, because then the amounts of elastic recommended, and of course you always recommend a little bit longer just in case to give a bit of leeway, but the amounts by which I reduce them are so insane that I thought I would share them. So the one thing that I forgot to mention when filming the vlog is that the lengths of elastic that you need for your size are nowhere to be found in the instruction booklet. They are only written on the pattern pieces, as I'm showing you in this picture, which is so incredibly frustrating if, like me, you're someone who cuts out the pattern, and then once I'm using the piece of fabric that I've cut out with the pattern piece, then I put away the pattern piece back into the envelope away from side. So I had to keep going into the pattern envelope and fishing out the correct pattern pieces to know what kind of length of elastic I had to cut. So for example, yeah, the main one actually, because I did change some things. So of course, the back elastic was going to be a lot shorter because I took a chunk out in the center back. So fair enough. That is me changing it. It's nothing to do with the pattern. But for example, the V-neck, the famous V-neck, which is what I adore about this pattern, which is this kind of plunging neckline. And we'll talk about the plunging because it plunges. It's not for all, I think. But you put elastic at the top of the back bodice first. Then you put elastic, 2 separate pieces of elastic that go from the shoulder. They basically create the sleeve, and then you've got the front bodice, and it ends there at the sternum again. I'm calling it that. It's probably a bit lower than the sternum. It's definitely lower than the sternum actually, but end up in the V. And so this piece of elastic from here to here was recommended to be 30 centimeters on each side. So 30 and 30. And I ended up tightening it so much that in the end I used a 22 centimeter elastic. That is a big difference. And the reason is why I had to tighten it is because otherwise the V-neck was ending up God knows where. Honestly, we were in dangerous territory. So yeah, I just kept having to like pull it up and pull it up. Now, the annoying thing about shaping created with elastic, which I have found with other dresses I've made in the past, is that it's so hard to get an idea of the fit until all of the elastics are in place. So what I would recommend that you do, what I did eventually, not at the beginning, and I kept going like, Alma. What I started doing halfway through was never closing the elastic channel fully. So I would just leave, which you can do in most places, maybe some places not so easily. So I would cut it to a certain length, stitch it down, close everything up, try it on, see that it was still huge, had to go in and pick a lot and adjust it like that. But in most places, so here, for example, at the top of the shoulder, it's not quite the shoulder because it's a raglan shoulder, but like, so where the sleeve meets the back bodice, I left a little tail. I think I secured this elastic. I secured it down here, but I left it loose up here, secured it just with a safety pin so that I could keep trying it on and going, oh no, that's not tight enough. That's not tight enough. That's not tight enough. And like eventually tighten it for days. So I would recommend that if you go near this pattern, you do that, because you need this elastic, of course, around the neckline. You need the elastic sort of under the bust. You need the elastic in the skirt before you can see what you're wearing, what you're making. It is so hard to imagine what's going on. And I can't remember if I took some footage, but if I did, I will put it on. It's just so confusing. You're just in this shapeless thing and you can't tell if anything is fitting as it should do. And also, I will say another little thing. It's in the instructions, which are photographs rather than illustrations, which I find a lot harder to follow. And also it's like a gray fabric, so you can't fully tell what's the right side and what's the wrong side, which I didn't love. But for example, there's things that are so thorough. So for example, they tell you to press each seam flat before you press it to the back or open or whatever, which is something that you are meant to do, and it's meant to help a lot. And I thought that's really nice. That's like a little elevated extra step to add. I love that. But then, for example, there was no picture of the fact that you had to sew all of this in one go and put the elastic in as one. So from the top of the sleeve to the front of the front bodice, there was no picture of that. So all I did wrongly, just put some elastic into the bodice part. And then I was like, what's happened here? I've just got like this loose flap of sleeve. And I read the instructions over and over again. And I kept not seeing it because I think there was no correlated image for it. So there was a sentence, it was something like, and sew down the front neckline and sleeve side, or something like that. I just skipped it. And it is there. It's fine. It's my fault. I read too quickly or whatever. But yeah, I got confused that it was so thorough for certain things. And there's pictures of pressing a seam flat so many times. And there was no picture of this, which is a weird shape that I was very confused by. Anyway, we got that. And I'm going to do a little shout out for the hero of this make, which is this. I think I've mentioned it before, and I will put a link below, a link to Amazon, which is where I get them. I've got a few. But this is so good for feeding so many lengths of elastic through channels, which is literally what makes this dress. I don't know about you, but with the safety pin, I often get it open. I lose it in the channel. The elastic gets detached. It's always a nightmare. This, I feel, is so much more secure. And it is basically, I think it was created to thread like a drawstring through a hood, for example, through a waistband. And I do use it for that as well, but I find it so useful for threading elastic. So love this little thing. And it made this a little bit easier. Okay, so we've talked about the elastic, we've talked about the modifications vaguely. So what I kept doing was, adjusting, securing the elastic somewhere and adjusting it somewhere else, and kept pulling and pushing and trying to figure it out. And eventually what we got was this dress. And in all fairness, I absolutely love it. So I will say that the experience was very fraught. The process was very stressful, but the final result I absolutely love. I think I could do without the side cutouts, but I couldn't quickly figure out how to just attach, because I would have had to modify the back piece quite a lot, I think. Lengthen it, curve it, I'm not sure, but it's something that I could potentially do, but I didn't for this one specifically because I was running out of time. But I don't mind the little cutouts on the side. They're quite cute, but I think I probably would prefer it without. But because of those cutouts, there's something I changed that I should say, which was an easy change at least, which is that in the original, the sleeves are also finished with elastic. So they're more like a puffy sleeve. And before I was putting in the elastic, I obviously had them as they are, sort of flutter sleeves. And I looked at myself in the mirror and I thought, actually, I really like that sleeve. I don't think I've got anything with that sleeve. I don't think I've ever sewn anything with the sleeve like this. And I don't know if it's the kind of Latin look of the fabric, but it made me think that it went with the print. The sleeve, which has to do this, the sleeve goes with the print, I thought. And also it means that the sleeve covers up a little bit of the cutout so that it's not always visible. It's more like, oh, does Alma have a cutout? Oh yeah, she does. Oh, that's quite nice. A nice little detail, but it's not like always in your face, if that makes sense. So really pleased about the change of the sleeves, which I basically didn't change anything. I think I just hemmed, I did quite a deep hem, so like 1.5 centimeters hem on the sleeves, and that was it. And I did at one point, I thought that I might want to add some rickrack to this dress. Let me show you. Oh no, I don't have it, but I took a video. So I have some rickrack that that mum gave me basically from my grandma's stash. And I did have a yellow that went really well with this print. And so I started looking at it and I thought that could look really cute together with maybe along the sleeve and along the hem. And I did do it on one sleeve and it didn't work. It did look cute, but I think that's the problem. It looked cute. I don't think this is a cute dress. I think this is a party, fun, a little bit sexy dress. So the rickrack really didn't work. But I do have a little bit of this fabric left and I thought maybe I could make myself some little shorts just to wear around the house or like as pajamas with the rickrack at the bottom. Something like that could be very cute. But yes, there is the result. Oh, and this, it's interesting to note because I hadn't figured that out from just looking at the pattern, obviously, very hard to do. Let me see if there's, the skirt portion is basically part elastic, part tie, I couldn't remember the name, part tie, so that you prepare 2 ties. And I thought, oh, that's probably all that goes into the skirt channel, and that's how you tie it. But no, each tie is also attached on the inside. It's attached to some elastic. Let's see if you can see that it, no, you absolutely can't. No, well, maybe. How do you even show that? What is that? But basically, you have a little bit of both. You have a bit of drawstring, you have a bit of elastic, which I do think is a clever idea. It feels good that it's adjustable. I like that a lot because, yeah, for example, when I had something in my pocket, I tightened that up a little bit more so that the skirt wouldn't fall down too much. And it's not like it's falling completely. It's just, it feels like a little bit like, ooh, cutouts. But so I like that I have the option of tightening it or the option of leaving it a little bit looser. Then the other thing that something I tried that didn't really work. I need to unstitch it actually. Basically, as it is, I do get a little flash of bra under here because of how the dress is constructed. And I'm pretty sure that basically you're meant to wear this without a bra, especially with the original, which has the opening at the back, the cutout all the way at the back. So I don't think you're able to wear this with a bra, which I don't fully understand. But I obviously wanted to wear a bra. I have a black bra, so it's fine. But a little bit of the bra does peek through here. It's black. The fabric's busy enough that it's okay. It's not the end of the world. But so I thought, oh, is there something that I can use to keep the bra and the dress attached? So on the side seam of the bodice, I sewed in this piece of elastic, and I thought I can thread through my bra before I put the dress on, and that maybe will keep it in hold. And it sort of does, but it's in the wrong place. And obviously I put it there because it's on the side seam so that I could stitch it without it being too visible. But it kind of started pulling and fighting against the bra, the dress, which meant that I then got a weird gap that showed even more of the back of the bra. So it's basically, that was a fail, and it's fine. It was just an afterthought, and I'm gonna unpick it and not use it. It's absolutely fine. And what else can I tell you? Oh, I haven't put a label in this yet. Maybe I could put one of these actually. Come to think about it. I don't have many cute labels left. I need to get more. Let me know what your favorite places to get labels in the UK are, because I am running very low. These are from Sew Anonymous, which I do really love. It's basically a seam ripper with how many seams have been ripped. It's meant for complicated makes, and I think that would actually suit this dress very well. I think that could look quite fun. Of course, it's too late to put it into the seam, but I could maybe unstitch a little bit of that channel, make it work. We'll see. If not, I'll do one of my iron-ons with Almita Made. But yeah, let's just say a label was not at the forefront of my thinking whilst I was frantically bringing this dress to life. But having said all of that, I will reconfirm the fact that I love this dress, and I will of course put some pictures up of me wearing it, because it's hard to tell what this shape is, and some pictures, maybe some videos as well. But I basically finished it last Saturday because I knew that I had my first little birthday celebration with a friend the next day. So I finished it in a rush for that, and it worked, and I wore it. Luckily, the weather turned a little bit warmer again, so I was fine. This was actually perfect. I really loved these kinds of sleeves for freshness. I've never worn something like this, so I didn't know if I was going to enjoy it. But I was like, oh yeah, I'm not getting like hot and bothered. It's so nice. So I really, really like the sleeves, and I wore it. Obviously, it has this beautiful open neckline, quite sexy. It is quite low. What I was doing with my friend was going to a charm bar, which is basically a place where you make yourself a charm necklace, which I really enjoyed. And I thought this dress will be the perfect open canvas to then add a charm necklace in there. It's a place called Accessories of Old. I will link down below to it because it's a place in West London, Fulham, Parsons Green. And we had so much fun. So you pay for a certain amount of charms, and then you just pick all of the charms that you want. You pick the chain that you like. there's lots of gold, there's lots of silver, and there's lots of in between, which is was basically what I went for. Very silly, my version. My friend, made herself such a classy looking bracelet with her initials, her husband's initial, her little boy's initial, and all of the star signs, and then a little heart. It was adorable. It was very, very elegant. And then in I come with like a balloon dog and an egg. But that's what's great. You can make the charm necklace that fits, or charm bracelet that fits your personality, which I really, really enjoyed. And so we had fun with that. This looked amazing with the addition of the charm necklace. And then we went for cocktails, which I felt like this dress was absolutely perfect for. And the weather was just about right. It was about, I think, 20 degrees, maybe a little bit less towards the end, but I was fine. I wasn't freezing. I was never too hot, that's for sure. And I felt very happy and very special. And I'm hoping to wear this dress again if the weather decides to be okay over this coming weekend for my birthday celebrations with Pat, which we're gonna do some fun stuff around town, around London, lots of delicious food, which I'll say this dress is good to eat in as well because it's not tight around the waist, and there's room to grow in the cutouts. No, but I'm very pleased I made it. And my vague initial idea before I started the whole process was, maybe if I love it, I then make it again in the Liberty fabric. But I will not do that. This was so stressful. And that fact, what I was talking about, that you can't quite see it until you have all the elastic in place. It's very hard to fit. You can't fit it all at once, if that makes sense. You have to, well, no, you can't fit it bit by bit. That's what I mean. So you have to do it all and then go back on yourself and unstitch so much. It's really frustrating. But I am happy with my hack. I'm sorry it's quite confused, because it was confused in my head, to be honest, as well. But it worked. We made it work in the end. But no, I will not be using this pattern again. And it has kind of put me off Vikisews patterns in the future. Never say never, because they might bring out a design that I'm like, oh my God, I have to have it. And there are some incredible looking designs. I just, maybe I'm too set in my ways in how I figure things out for myself with new patterns. There's, another thing, sorry. But usually I look at finished garment measurements, and I couldn't find this anywhere for this pattern. Again, please let me know if I am wrong and they are just in a different place that I couldn't see. But all I could find was the ease allowance. And I just didn't understand it at all. So it says, I will put a picture of this up on the screen so you can see it too. But so it says total ease allowance, bust ease in centimeters, between 53.7 and 58.6 centimeters. I don't understand what that means, because it can't be that there's 50 centimeters of ease. That's so much. Half a meter of ease. What does that mean? And then same waistline ease is between 47 and 50. That just makes no sense to me. And I know there's the elastic, but it's still not going to be 50 plus centimeters of ease. That just really confused me. So I couldn't pick my size from the finished garment measurements, which really, really frustrated me. And you have to pick just one size. And I do think there are some patterns where you can buy multi-size, but this one in particular, I couldn't. And the height thing and the instructions, I really didn't love. But again, if you're driven by design, then they are an amazing company in that sense, because they have so many cute, so many relevant, modern, contemporary designs that are just brilliant. But maybe I would say, maybe not for beginners, although maybe if you start sewing with Vikisews patterns, maybe you love them. So I would be extremely curious to hear your opinions, your experiences with it. Am I just bad at it? I've done it all extremely wrong. And of course, I will remind you that I made my life much more complicated by trying to hack the pattern. Maybe for my first Vikisews pattern, I should have just done something straightforward. But of course, I wasn't going to do that because I like to complicate my life. But my complicated life led to a beautiful dress that I have already worn and been very happy in, and I will hopefully wear quite a lot again. I would, of course, want to wear it on November 1st, Dia de los Muertos, Day of the Dead, which is when this imagery of the sugar skull is very prominent in Mexican culture. But it is quite summery, and that is November the 1st. So maybe I need to go to Mexico on November the 1st. That would be nice. Anyone want to take me? But yeah, before I fully lose my mind, let me sign off. I will see you again with a What's the Buzz? A Sewing Bee chat on Sunday, and then again next week with another full vlog. If you enjoyed this chaotic one, please do give it a thumbs up. Do subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I would absolutely love you to share my channel with sewing friends, because if you enjoy my videos, then it's likely that your sewing friends would also enjoy my videos. So please spread the love and let them know. Do buy me a coffee if you're able to. The link is below. Do check out the Stash Hub app. I've put the link below, and the Amazon link for that channel threader, this little lifesaver. Love this. But yeah, this was a very different type of vlog for me, I thought, and I am sad that I didn't get on with Vikisews patterns, because there are lots of designs that I would probably enjoy making, but this was probably enough for me for the time being anyway. As I say never. But if you are huge Vikisews patterns, please let me know below. Is there a trick to it? And I'm just not getting it. It could be. But until I see you next time, keep making and keep chatting about making. Bye. Okay, hello, good boy. Good boy to the microphone. It's not a dog, Alma. Here we go.